Hey everybody, it's Chris Eads, and online is Wootini, here with another Gay Gamer video podcast. This week I went to see Mean Girls, which is another movie adaptation of a stage musical adaptation of a movie. And like The Color Purple, Mean Girls also has the same problem of having to rush through the story in order to accommodate all of the songs. So some of the character arcs and the changes of heart are like they're rushed through or barely mentioned, so it doesn't work as well as like the original film. But it does repeat a lot of the same jokes. It has some new ones, some of which are actually quite funny. But it overall works. Also the actress playing Katie is very good at mousy new girl Katie, but not so much at plastic Katie. That didn't quite work for me. But thankfully, the difference between this and The Color Purple is that in Mean Girls, the musical numbers are tremendous. The songs are good, they're funny, they're clever lyrics, and the way that they're staged, it's all very fantastical and like lots of singing and dancing and lots of energy, and it's fun. So I actually really kind of enjoyed Mean Girls. Like if I was going to go and watch The Color Purple, I would watch the Steven Spielberg movie because that told the story better. Whereas with Mean Girls, it's kind of a toss-up as to like, do I want songs or do I want the original movie? Because it's not as good as the original movie, but it's surprisingly good. And I enjoyed the songs and musical numbers. So it's something where I'm like, oh, I would have liked to have seen that on stage maybe. But I don't know. I also watched this past week Leave the World Behind, which is a Netflix movie that I was avoiding because it's like this apocalyptic thriller, but it felt, from what I heard about it, it felt like one of those metaphor movies. You know, like they're very popular now, these horror movies that are like more of a metaphor and they're not actually scary, but it's a metaphor for trauma or whatever, and like they're not actually scary. So I was like, no, this looks like one of those metaphor movies that is going to be all vague and frustrating, and I'm going to get annoyed at it. But my husband watched it, and he liked it. So I was like, oh, maybe I'll check it out, because he hates metaphor movies more than I do. So there is like, you know, social commentary and whatever, and it's fine. Basically, a white family rents a house, and the black family that owns it comes back unexpectedly because there's some world crisis going on. Well, it's a local crisis that, you know, gets worse. And it is rather vague because they are in this isolated house and they're trying to figure out if they can trust each other and if, you know, what's going on in the world and all that sort of thing. And I was a little concerned because at first I was concerned that it was going to be too vague and you'd get no explanations. Then as the movie went on, the dialogue got more and more like on the nose and obvious, and I was like, oof. And like the scene with Kevin Bacon's character was very, very like, hello. And I was like, uh-oh, they're going to ruin this ending. But the actual ending of the film, I thought was actually very good because they give you enough information that it's satisfying, but they leave things vague. Certain things are still left vague so that your imagination can fill in the rest, and that's always scarier than what any movie script could come up with. So I thought it was pretty good, and if you have Netflix, check it out, because it is not a metaphor movie. There is some social commentary, but it is actually quite good, and there's a couple of scenes in it. There's these two suspense sequences that just like were so good. Like they ratchet, they're cross-cutting between the characters, and it like the tension just builds, and you're like sitting there like not breathing. You're like, very well done. So I recommend that one as well. As for games, as I'm sure you will probably have expected, I am not juggling 4 games. I did not juggle 4 games this week. This past week, I only juggled the 3. In addition to Animal Crossing and Disney Dreamlight Valley, I basically just played Avatar. There was no Super Mario RPG. I did not alternate days as I thought I could suggest to myself to do. I considered it, but then I ended up playing Avatar anyway. And I did not bring it with me when I went to see Mean Girls because I was going to run errands afterwards and I didn't want to carry my Switch around with me all afternoon. So, yeah, there was no Mario, no Switch. Well, there was Animal Crossing, but no Mario RPG. It was just Avatar. And I actually have been making good progress in it. I left the Kingler Forest and I went to the Upper Plains where you learn to ride a dire horse, which is not nearly as good as the Ikron. But I've been trying to, it's been difficult because like I've been trying to do, like as I was going there, I passed these like human, you know, places that are ruining the environment and these, you know, facilities, the drilling and the whatever. And I thought maybe I should go like clean that up as I'm passing. But then I scan it, and I think I scanned it, and the enemies were like, it was really high level, and I was like, oh, maybe I should not go near that. Like one of them I was flying past, and they just started shooting at me from the ground, and I was like, oh no, And I just went on and started doing the main quests. You know, I went up to do the main quest to go up and learn to ride a dire horse and meet the Seswa clan and all that. Because I'm still struggling with the combat sometimes, because I'll try to I'll scout out the area, and I'm like, okay, these are the enemies, and oh, I can, you know, set fire to that or let that poison out or whatever. And I still struggle sometimes with the combat, and I get my ass handed to me and I will die. But because it's difficult, because one of the things that I have a slight issue with the game is the leveling system. In the game, you don't just earn experience points and level up. You do missions and gain skill points, and you level up by adding more skills and upgrading your character with your skill points, but then also with your equipment and weapons. So you need to have the best equipment and the best weapons in order to keep leveling up. You know, like one bow will keep you at level 8, but if you switch to this bow that's better, then you'll be level 9. And that's how you level up, and it's kind of annoying. So like you're constantly changing your equipment, and it's annoying because you have to sometimes you find it, sometimes you can buy it, and then sometimes you craft it. But crafting it is like the best way to do it, but you have to have the best materials in order to create the best equipment. And getting the best materials is super annoying and time consuming and tricky and whatever. Because you have to do it the right time of day, you've got to do it with the right weather, you got to do it the right way, and you know, then you get a super awesome piece of material that you can then craft into something super awesome. Otherwise, you're going to craft something average, and that's not going to help level you up. So I find that slightly frustrating. I would have preferred that on top of a regular leveling system, but what are you going to do? I'll just keep struggling through, because I am still playing it, and I am still working my way through it. I looked at a walkthrough, and I am about halfway through the main missions, which is funny because I'm at like 25 hours of gameplay, which I'm halfway through the main missions, but I've still got like a ton of side quests. Like I didn't even leave the Kingler Forest for like a good long piece of time because I was doing all these side quests first to level up, but then I was like, well, let me just finish out these side quests. But I kept doing side quests, and then more would just pop up, and I'm like, are these being randomly generated or something? Because they just keep coming. And I was like, eventually I was like, you know what? I'll do these side quests another time. I'm gonna go and do the next main mission. And then up in the plains, I'm getting more side quests. So even though I'm halfway through the main missions, there's a ton of side quests to do, and I'm going to do them all so that I can level up, so that at the end of the game, I'll be able to survive and fight back the humans and get them off the planet. Well, not really, probably, because, you know, it's still in context with the movie. But I have been doing a lot of progress because I'm not using photo mode as much. I was disappointed because, you know, the game's gorgeous, and I'd love to take a ton of pictures, but the photo mode is very bare bones. Like, I don't need much, but the filters are, like, useless. It's basically, like, paler, palest black and white, you know? It's like, no, I want the vibrant colors. Like, why would, like give me other filters that aren't just pale, you know? And then like you can change the time of day, but only by hour. There's no like nuance, so you can't like adjust the sun so it's right here. It's either here or here. You can't get anywhere in between. So that's not great. But what I would really love them to patch is the ability to pose your character and give facial expressions, because the landscapes are gorgeous. And I take pictures of landscapes, no problem. But anytime I try to take a picture of my character in an environment, I don't like it because he just has these big dead eyes, and it's just like, eh. And there are emotes that you can activate where the character will like make these gestures repeatedly, and that helps with the dead eye. It helps give it a little expression, but they're moving constantly, and you have to like hit the photo button at just the right moment and hope that you get it, and you have to do it a bunch of times to try to get just the right moment, and because he's not just posing still, you know. And I'd like them to take a page out of Insomniac's book and do like with Spider-Man, where you have all these different poses and facial expressions and you can get just the right thing, and then I would be spending a lot more time in photo mode instead of actually playing the game. But as it is, the photo mode is kind of bare bones and it's not great, and so I've been actually just playing the game and not really taking photos. Unless I stumble across an environment and I'm like, oh, that's gorgeous, take a picture, you know, it'll last longer. So that's it for this episode. Come back next time and see if I've actually played any Super Mario RPG or if I'm still lost in Pandora. Bye!